And that was really the real beginning, kind of music in the elementary schools back then in the 40s and 50s. He also played constantly in various orchestras and bands on the weekends during the 40s, 50s, and 60s, almost always playing the clarinet. I think he could play 5, 6 instruments, but clarinet was his main one. Through the years, the Beardsley Band developed a reputation for greatness. To the right of me, left of me, to the right of me is some of the evidence of the domination during those decades. So those trophies start early 40s and go through the 60s up there. So pretty incredible. That's just some of them, that Jim Young and Jim Reed had kept in here. And I moved into my office. We moved over here for today. And so take a look at those if you get a second after we're done. Elden was tough but fair with students and did not always sugarcoat his words, even to his own grandson. That's me. I took lessons from Elden on the alto saxophone. After a couple years, Elden apparently noticed I was playing a lot of soccer, a lot more than I was practicing music, and he was not subtle about letting me know he noticed it. Elden told me during one of my weekly lessons at his house with my mom as a mortified witness, "You must be a hell of a soccer player, because you clearly are playing more soccer than practicing saxophone." That's a true story. So I played about 6 more months and quit. Yeah. That was kind of my sign. I didn't take that as an endorsement of my saxophone playing acumen at the time. My mom and I still laugh about that Elden moment all the time. Elden was incredibly lucky in that he did what he loved for a living. He believed in hard work, loyalty, and being thankful for what you have. He didn't believe, as he would often say, in going out and risking what his family had and needed, trying to chase after what it didn't have and didn't need. So he was a very conservative his whole life like that. He was a son of the Great Depression, and it helped form his character. Elden would tell me as a young high school kid to find what you're passionate about and do it. Don't sleepwalk through your life, he would say. He never sleepwalked through his life one day here at Beardsley and the whole time he was here, because he loved what he was doing. Through the years, he could have moved on to what many people would say were bigger or higher paying positions. The problem with that line of thinking for Elden was that there was no bigger or better job than the position of director of his Beardsley Band, and he never would trade his coveted position for money or social accolades. The years progressed on, and in 1967, a great thing happened for the district. It was a great year for Beardsley. A second young man entered the Beardsley music sphere named Jim Reed, right behind me here, in front of me. What a fortuitous day that was for our district. And, who better to speak about Mr. Reed than 2 former long-term colleagues and friends?
Just to kind of let you know, I taught, I started here in '95. I spent 25 years at the junior high school. And then I've been spending the last year and a half or so working for the district with the pandemic and distance learning and now homeschooling and independent studies. So it's just been an interesting ride for me. But I have, within those 25 years, I have developed a very good, an idea of what to say about Jim Reed. And so I was thinking to myself, and I wrote this all out, and I kept going through drafts and throwing things away, and I finally kept this one. And after 52 years of teaching, which Jim did put in, I thought, how can you talk quickly about 52 years? You really can't. So we brought some blankets, and we're going to set some tents up. No, but really, my job right now is to just touch a little bit on Jim and give you an idea of why he is. And I'm sure Helen would like to know that as well. So here we go. So 1944. So let's go back to 44. It was a landmark year. We were in the thick of World War II. Sunscreen was invented, and kidney dialysis became a reality. In addition, that was the year that a baby boy was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, to Carl and Laura Bell Reed. They called that little boy James. And here he is today. Last night we were eating dinner, and I asked Jim, I said, did you ever think you'd be sitting with me tonight eating dinner? He said no. So anyway, we had a moment last night, but it just lasted a moment. So James, or Jim, was raised in a very spiritual and music loving family. Both of his parents played instruments. His dad played clarinet. He also sang, and his mom played piano. In addition, all three of his sisters and two of his brothers were musically inclined. So he was in a big family. Now, I'd have to ask Jim, since you're in front of me here, I kept asking him questions throughout the week. Jim, you had a big household. Did you guys ever fight over the bathroom? Because that was the first thing that came into my mind.
My sister moved in with her 5 kids, and so there were 13 of us.
Yeah.
One bathroom.
And so, well, congratulations. So religiously, Jim's dad was active in Southern gospel quartets, and I'll be asking you more questions later. He was also a radio announcer. We're looking at the musical end of his dad. Later, Jim followed his footsteps, singing the gospel, helped Jim get through college. He actually got a scholarship that helped him get through college, but it didn't stop there, because he continued singing for another 50 years in gospel quartets and trios. He was part of the Joyful Noise Trio for 15 years, then the RSV Quartet for 35 years. In fact, when he was out and about, it is not uncommon for people to go, "Mr. Reed, how are you?" And he'll go, "I don't remember your name, but you played clarinet in second position, right?" And yeah, and that's true, Jim. And I've seen that more than once, and it just amazes me how he remembers their instruments. So, Jim attended 2 high schools in Little Rock, Arkansas. One was the Hall High School and the Central High School, and he graduated in 1962. I was 3. He then attended Pasadena College, which is now Point Loma Nazarene University, and he graduated in 1966. But that didn't stop him. He continued his continuing education at Cal State Bakersfield, Cal State San Luis Obispo, and the University of the Pacific. And I asked him, I said, why'd you want to become a band director? And I got into his heart a little bit, and I'm going to share that with you. As previously mentioned, he was born into a musical family, and singing and playing musical instruments was a commonplace in his life. In school, his junior high and his high school band directors greatly influenced him, as did his college professors, and that's Dr. Keith Pagan, I believe, and his mentor teacher here at Beardsley, Mr. Elden Miller. And I talked with Paul, and we had some great talks, Paul, by the way. Good talks. And I was thinking, what we talked about, what motivates people to continue a program like that for so long? And so I thought I need to ask that question, and because we almost think it's a lot of people come and go. They'll come here, and maybe they'll leave, but why stay here? And so I'm going to address that. First of all, Jim loves teaching, and being with students were 2 big motivators in his life. Each year brought a new challenge that he eagerly accepted. Also, the continuing tradition of the Beardsley music program kept Mr. Reed in motion, as was the support of what he called the greatest teachers and administrators a person could ask for. Now, Jim, don't expect a raise today. You are retired. But anyway, he was being very honest with me. Finally, his wife of 56 years, Helen, stood by his side, and this is right from Jim. She encouraged him and listened to his frustrations and gripes. I have witnessed many of these occasions. Jim and Ellen and my wife Marge, and we almost had dinner every night while they lived here in Bakersfield. I mean, that was just something we did. And there were many times I wondered how he got out of the restaurant alive. She is truly an angel who knows how to swing a frying pan. I recall many days when Jim would show up at school with bandages on his head. And way to go, Helen. No, but honestly, she's been so supportive. It's been wonderful to be with you. I asked him, who do you think? And he firstly, Mr. Reed thanks God for allowing him to help others. And I will contest I've been through a lot of things in my past almost 30 years here, and Jim saw me down and out one day, and he came up and brought me a Bible, and spoke a lot to me. All right. Second, he thanks his students who have carefully listened, diligently worked, wholeheartedly loved music, and continually laughed at his corny jokes, such as this one. You know where the first hamburger was fried? Anyway. Well, in Greece, of course. All right. That's a dad joke. By the way, Mr. Reed has always looked at his students as his kids. And that he's accepted others in his life, and that has kept him going, and that has also kept his students going, because they feel that. And then thirdly, Mr. Reed thanks Mr. Young, who played a major role in Mr. Reed's successful tenure. Since 1980, Mr. Young and Mr. Reed worked together in keeping the Beardsley music program alive. He said that without Mr. Young's tireless effort, hard work, expertise, and friendship, the program would not have been as successful. And I'll be honest with you, I've seen them work together, and I've worked with them, and they just made a great duo. I need to get some water, just a second here.
Not the spray bottle.
Spray bottle, anything would be good, maybe cotton candy or some ice cream box. I stand here today in front of my cohorts who only know what flop gob and skip gob are. And it's really neat. Okay. I knew I needed water. All right. Finally, Mr. Reed thanks Beardsley community members. According to Jim, their continued support was priceless. He said that we could not have been successful without their tremendous support. And like any other program, and I've been in my own programs too, unless you have that support, it can dwindle. So I know that this district has been tremendously supported in the music department. And being a musician, I appreciate that very much. Very much so. Onward. After Mr. Reed's retirement in 2006, Mr. Young asked if he would come back a couple of days a week and teach beginning band and choir at North Beardsley and San Laurent. And Jim accepted the invite. In doing so, he gained 13 more great years of working for the district. He even gave up some of his summers so that he could teach in the summer music program. And I did that with you, and that was a lot of fun. He was line dancing just a few years ago. It was just a man. It's awesome. That gave him a total of 52 years of teaching music and a host of other subjects, including computers and U.S. history at Beardsley School District. I know you had choir in there too, became choir. You've been through a lot, Jim. I know. After 52 years in Bakersfield, Helen and Jim sold their home and moved to Phoenix. I think they were trying to get rid of me. And that was in March, you know that, March 2020, right in the heart, in the opening of the pandemic. These guys are traveling. And I was thinking, are they even going to let them across the state line? And apparently they did. So they're now living close to his youngest son, Brad. And the family lives there. And he has another son named Darren as well, too. They're in Colorado. The Reeds were able to build a new home right next to the Dodgers spring training facility. He has always been a Dodger fan. Sorry, Mr. Hilton. I know, Jim. I know it's tough. And both Jims are Dodger fans. One thing that Jim said is this: you can move away, but you can never escape Beardsley. He says not too far from his house is the Beardsley Road. Who knew? Now I'm just briefly, I'm going to stop talking, but I'm just briefly going to say a couple things from me. The Beardsley School District music program has continued to be successful because individuals who were involved took it to heart. And their students and parents knew that. Unless you show that something means something, it really doesn't mean anything. Countless band trophies. Take a look around here, starting from Elden Miller all the way up here, Mr. Reed, Mr. Young. Just unbelievable. tell an amazing tale of how hard work, dedication, and love of community united. In doing so, the heartbeat of the district, its music program, has stayed intact and remains successful for the past 82 years and counting. For nearly 30 years, I have been fortunate actually, to witness what it takes to maintain a positive presence in our community. In this case, the existence of the district's music program. And just think, sometimes it only took a single blow from a child into a flutophone or a tap on a drum to reignite or to add height to the music program's flame. Keep in mind that what happens next after a child has an initial exciting musical discovery that can dictate how far the child will venture into the music world. It takes special, talented individuals to recognize and harvest those aha moments, such as that. And the big three knew how to do that. Thank you.
I just want to say that his sense of humor, Jim Reed's sense of humor touches everything. And that's really one of the number one tools that Mr. Reed had that could reach the students here at the school and in the band program. And whoever he came across, whether it be the students, the people that he worked with, his humor. And through that humor, he was able to reach those students and get the most out of what talents they have. And I've always appreciated that humor, and that drew me to becoming more than just a colleague of Jim's, but also a friend. And I'd always look forward to when we would go on field trips. I mean, Jim would be the one I'd like to kind of hang out with because there was always going to be something. Some kind of a prank, some kind of a joke, but you knew you were going to have fun. You knew you were going to laugh. And I learned from that. And I would observe him. When they would do a concert and they'd have the flutophones, and the little kids were, 2.5 feet tall, and Jim being 6 foot tall, he'd been down to talk with them, and he'd always have something to say that would bring a smile to their face. You could just see the passion that he had for his program and working with the kids, and the reaction from those kids. I still have those memories, those images. Jim was sports-minded, officiating in the Kern County Officials Association, football and basketball. And that's another thing that he had in common with a lot of the kids, and especially the kids that I worked with. And so together we worked out, when you're a small school, you're sharing kids, music, sports, they're doing double time. And so we would work out that if you had a competition or a game, that took priority, that if you, practice was important. And we were able to work through that so that those kids could do those kinds of, that's the kind of guy he was. He wasn't selfish, it's all about me and my program. It was about the whole school, the whole school environment. So I was able to go down to one of the Disneyland trips, and of course to be able to see Beardsley's band march down Main Street, USA, and playing Rocky. I know if you're here, you experienced it, I'm sure. It would just give you goosebumps and make you so proud of being associated with, and in some small way a part of, the music program here. The world famous Beardsley Band. Beardsley's Junior High Band is known throughout the county as one of the top bands, top programs in the entire Kern County, consistently, year after year. And going and watching them compete on the weekends and seeing those lines straight, can just visualize that band and how much better that they looked than the other bands consistently year after year. You just held your head up high. And that was a result of Mr. Reed carrying on the program from Mr. Miller that was started back in the late 30s, like Mr. Miller indicated. Just made you so proud to be part of the Beardsley School District, and the reason this program is still going strong. And of course, Mr. Young has done an excellent job in you know, learning from Mr. Reed, carrying the torch. You just couldn't be prouder than to be a part of Beardsley Junior High School and think, you know, of the Beardsley band. I'm actually about 107 years old. With all the birthday celebrations.
Is that today? Today's today.
You know, we talked about his sense of humor. And there's some times that come to mind when we're in Las Vegas at a convention. And we're in a gondola. Mr. Chapman, Mr. Reed, Mr. Williams, Mr. Lewis, and myself. In the gondola, except for us, the rest of the people in there were foreigners that didn't speak English.
To their credit.
And they had, this man here had them singing happy birthday to me as this gondola from Mandalay Bay to the Lexar. Anyway, Jim, it's just been a pleasure. I have so many fond memories. I just appreciate what you've done for this program and also what you've done for me as a mentor and being able to watch you. You know, I used to sneak in the band room every once in a while when you had orchestra, the full band going, and I just loved watching the rehearsals and your interactions with the kids. And I think those observations help make me a better teacher as well. So, congratulations. You so deserve this.
Thank you, Mr. Belcher. Great job there. Right around 1980 was a very, very lucky day, again, for Beardsley School District. Another young man came along, and his name was Jim Young, sitting right there, and it almost didn't happen. A little story behind that, but you know, there's some details there, but he almost didn't come to Beardsley, and we sure as heck are lucky he did. That's one of those little twists, you know, in life there. Could have went either way, I think, and just so fortuitous that he showed up here in the way he did, and continued that legacy with Mr. Reed, and after Mr. Reed, all those years. And so we have Mrs. Christy Dawson here to talk about Mr. Young. Mrs. Dawson worked a few years around here with him. I won't give the total number there, but
today, I have the privilege of introducing him as one of the big three as we dedicate this beautiful music complex to three of probably the greatest school band directors in history. Not just in Kern County, but I would say anywhere. Jim was born in Los Angeles. His parents were Ivan and Elaine, a teacher and a homemaker. Graduated from Point Loma University in San Diego with a degree in music education. I gotta stop right here and say, Point Loma, have you ever been there? It like hangs out over the ocean. And he left there. And came to Bakersfield. Let's look at this. The beach, clean air, the beach, and then we have Bakersfield. Hours from the beach, and not so clean air. But I get it, a job is a job. I left San Luis Obispo for a job here. But Jim, did you really know where you were going? A little school in Oildale called Beardsley Junior High. That little school in Oildale didn't know how blessed they were at the time. But we know now how blessed we are. To have Jim call Beardsley his home away from home for 41 years. Came to Beardsley, I believe, kind of mid-year 1980. And along with him came his work ethic and his unyielding character, along with high moral standards. He has spent the last 41 years passing those quality characteristics on to the students and staff of the Beardsley School District. And it didn't stop there. I think it's gone throughout Kern County to the whole music community here. I think it's fitting that he credits two exceptional teachers that he had in junior high and high school with teaching him the value of music and hard work. I think his parents may have had a little bit to do with that also. Makes you wonder how many of his former students think of him as a big positive influence in their life. I'd have to go out on a really long limb and say probably most of them. I worked with Jim for over 35 years, 37, give or take a few when I was out on, as Rocky used to say, fertility leave. But I can honestly say that I do not ever recall him ever speaking negatively about a student. He has a God-given ability to see the good in everyone and the ability to overlook the flaws. He truly is remarkable. I've been blessed to call him not only my colleague, but my friend. I can't tell you how many days I'd leave my classroom, heading home, walking down the hall, and he and I would run into each other. And I'd get home about an hour later. He can talk. And when he talks, time flew by fast. I'm sure that has happened to many of you too. He is a great talker. Jim credits the fact that he grew up in a family of UCLA fanatics. Sorry, Paul. For his work ethic and high moral convictions. He was greatly influenced by UCLA coaching legend John Wooden. John Wooden's definition of success says, success is peace of mind that is the direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best that you are capable of becoming. He said that had a huge influence on his life. And he brought those kinds of things to the students here at Beardsley. Jim also states that he always tried to honor God in all that he did and does. And I think we can all see that in everything he's done around here. The students and staff of the Beardsley School District are better, much better, for having known him. As I look back over the last 30 some odd years, my own kids came through here. 2 of them played in the band under Jim Young, and 2 of them under Jim Reed and Jim Young. Kind of split it in half. And I had one who, my third one, spent a year with Jim Reed and then a year with Jim Young, and she went through that transition with him. And I remember he handled that with grace. It wasn't always easy, but he sure handled it with grace. And all the Disneyland trips, what's the other place we used to go to? Knott's Berry Farm. Jim wearing his wife's jeans. That was one time. Should I go further? It was a dark morning when he got ready to go that day. He bought some shorts at Knott's Berry Farm for the rest of the day. Or the time that Jim Reed got us all to sing happy birthday to Mr. Belcher at a WHO award, which is a teacher's award program. We had a teacher from our junior high who was receiving an award that night, and for the life of me can't figure it out, but they asked Jim Reed to introduce it. They had no idea what they were in for. So before Jim Reed introduces this gentleman, he asks the whole place to sing happy birthday to his friend Richard Belcher. So the whole place did. And I think just about most of us teachers at that time who were here today were there. Mm-hmm. Richard almost passed out. And then the teacher being honored got up, and his acceptance speech for the award that he was getting was how great Richard Belcher was for appearing at his dinner on his birthday. When was that award? In May? His birthday is New Year's Eve. But because it was New Year's Eve, we were never here to celebrate with him. So we made up for it throughout the year, and anytime we were all together, we sang happy birthday to him. Didn't matter where we were. But this teacher went on and on about Richard. And to this day, and he's no longer with us, he does not know that that was not Richard's birthday. None of us had the guts to burst his bubble. But we had many, many fun, good years. Through one administration to another, things didn't change much. And I'm thankful that my kids were here to have the experience of playing for both of them. And you know, my husband played for Elden Miller. So when you talk about the big three, they're kind of in our family. My husband today said, "Why don't you let me get up and say a few words about Mr. Miller?" And I said, "He would be rolling in his grave if he thought you were going to get up here and talk about him." He wasn't the best band student. He says he's first chair, but he also had more demerit marks, I think, than anybody. Anyway, it's been my pleasure to work with you, Jim, and I'm thankful that I was asked to introduce you today. So maybe we'll see each other in Coeur d'Alene next year. Yeah. We ran into each other in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Christy.
Ryan, it looks like we have something in common. Both felt the wrath of Elden Miller when failing somewhat in the band.
Did you ever have a laughing machine?
I was first chair, though.
I was not, yes. Got me on that one. Yeah.
It wasn't the talent that was the problem. Is that right, Mr. Reed?
So our last speaker today is a parent who had 4 children go through the program, parent and a board member, and has given as much as anybody to the band program in terms of volunteering and practically living here for a long stretch of time there, and that's Mrs. Gina Rasmussen. Gina?
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Good afternoon, everyone. Like you said, I'm Gina Rasmussen. I am president of the Beardsley Board of Trustees, and I want to thank you all for being here to honor the legacy of the big three. But I'm the 4th one to speak. What can I honestly say that's new that you haven't already heard? So I just want to say thank you. Thank you to the big three for instilling a love of music in every single student that crossed your path. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for the countless hours that you put into this program for over the past 83 years. Thank you for even coming back in your retirement to continue to make a difference in the lives of our students. Thank you, Mr. Miller, Mr. Young, Mr. Reed, for your continued support in the Beardsley Music Program. You guys are truly loved and supported, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you. So, what band program has only 3 band directors over 82-year period? There's one that I know of, and that's this one right here. Unbelievable. For my family and for myself, to Jim and Elden, just, I don't even know what to say for what you guys did. All the times that you could have left Elden to, could have gone anywhere and did anything you wanted to do. You didn't do that. You stayed right here and you worked with the kids that needed you the most. Year after year after year, and it's really unbelievable. Honestly, I mean, on behalf of my mother and my family and the whole Beardsley family, I can't thank you enough. Words can't express how I feel about what you guys did in the aftermath of my grandfather, and it's just huge. And so I officially dedicate this new facility to the big 3, Elden Miller, Jim Reed, and Jim Young, and everybody hang around and enjoy the refreshments and come and take a look at the plaque that's going to be affixed right outside this door. Yeah, oh, absolutely, come on up, Jim. Yeah, you bet.
I have to wear this shirt because Jenna gave it to me. Jenna gave Just very, very quickly, Elden, when I first came, I was 23 years old, and the first thing I learned was I was going to have to teach all band instruments. And I used to come down to the band room and sit in the Eldens, and use my prep period and come down and sit in. That's how I learned to play flute and clarinet, and I was a brass player, and all the other things. But that first year, I really didn't know what to think. Elden was one of a kind. And I just have to say that the first March or April, we went to a music educators convention in Los Angeles. And we were sitting at the Biltmore Hotel, and we checked in, and being 23 years old, and Elden was in his, probably around 60 at the time, I carried the luggage up to the room. I set it down outside the door, took the key and opened the door, walked in with the luggage, and I turned around and Elden is standing outside the door. And I looked at him and he said, "Well, honey, are you going to carry me across the threshold?" I almost didn't stay for the second year. But I'm glad I did. Another thing about Elden, the type of person he was, the last year that he taught here, he took the beginning band and had me take the senior band so he could help me get through that transition. I'd only been 5 years. You know, I worked 26 years to help him make the transition. But to work with Jim Young all those years, it's not only a great colleague and a hard worker, I couldn't have left the program to a better person and a better friend. Thank you, Beardsley School District, for keeping me on the dole for 52 years.
Thanks, Jim.
Hey, well, obviously, appreciate you all being here. This is really an amazing thing. I want to talk briefly about just this building and what's going on here. This is kind of an I'll say accent, I'm not sure how that works, but as we began to change things, we needed an office at the junior high school, we needed a place for PE, things just kind of got moved and became a real cool opportunity to create a really amazing state-of-the-art facility that you don't see in any middle school anywhere in Kern County. We had the opportunity to tour a lot of different places, look at a lot of things. And I want to, just thank the school board, Mr. Miller, Russ Woods, obviously isn't here, all the people involved in this process of putting this thing together. It's a really, really cool, it's not the old band room, but it's really a cool place and cool facility for the kids. Once again, also just to Jim, those 26 years in training or whatever else. I actually learned a couple things along the way there. So it was kind of good. And but just to have that, somebody like Jim to spend time with and to learn all these different types of things. And you see things that you think this is amazing, you see things that, I'd probably change that a little bit. But I think if you look at the programs, it hasn't changed a whole lot because he was doing so many things right, was so good. And I agree with Richard, sense of humor, there's a lot of things I can't say today. But but just, if, that's how Jim dealt with students, and it made a huge difference in everything he did. And it was a great role model for me and everything else. So finally, just Beardsley School District is probably, in my opinion, the best kept secret in Kern County. People don't have any idea what goes on in this place in a positive way. And yet, if you talk to people who've come out of this school, you realize the great education they get, the great opportunities they have, the incredible teaching staff and administrative staff that allows those things to happen. So it's been a great 41 years, and looks like that's going to continue a little bit. But thank you all. It's been a great opportunity, Mr. Miller. Thank you for this. I will say one other thing. I'm really glad this photo, which is the one that this flag is made on, was taken so long ago because I kind of went looking kind of young to this whole thing. I'll stay that way forever. So thank you.
Thank you.
This photo has a little story behind it. Before I started working at Beardsley, it was the spring of 2000. There was a spring concert, and I brought Elden over, wheeled him into the gym. Both gyms will remember that night, I think, and we got this picture. I'm really glad we did. Really glad I was able to get him over here. So. Okay, so with that, we're going to adjourn the formal part of the event here, and please, everybody hang around, have some refreshments, enjoy the building and the facility, and talk to Jim and Jim. And again, congratulations, guys. You completely deserve it. It's really an honor to be doing this on behalf of the board and the entire Beardsley family. So, right.